What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more boar luring simulation right now. This is what the doctor ordered. This is what everyone's paid the big bucks to say. Oh, the boar's dead. Okay, we're out of sync. No worries. And in the top side of the map, it is Age Mythology. It is Mythic Wars. It is $10,000 on the line. And we have ourselves Jack playing as Zeus. His opponent today in the red color is none other than the fearsome raid boss, Mr. Kavoth, the Uranus abusing man, the myth, the legend. So, little story here. A certain someone, don't want to name them by too many names, has been on a rampage about a certain god. Don't want to specifically name it by name, but they may or may not have first picked it and then first picked it again. And of course, I'm talking about a Kavoth and his Uranus tirade. No. Uranus is one of those gods which has a lot of power in it. But if you misuse the power or you make mistakes, you're often punished for it really, really hard. The problem with Uranus is that the skill ceiling is sort of off the charts. Like, if you play a perfect game with Uranus, I feel like you can't lose, is what my honest opinion on the whole thing is. But playing a perfect game isn't easy. So I'm excited to see what Kavoth's going to be going for this one with. Jack is also an Uranus player, so unfortunately he does not get to play it as the second pick in this draft system. You don't get to pick your first pick. You have to go with your second pick, and we'll see how it all goes. Now, Uranus on this map against Zeus has got a lot of options. We actually saw some people trying this in previous tournaments and having some success with it. I believe even the Mister did this and had success with it. One of the big advantages that Uranus has got is that the scary part about Zeus is the bronze timing. And what can Uranus do? Well, Uranus can just not be there. And that's easier said than done. However, if you're defending or whatever, Sky Passage here, Sky Passage, say, up on this gold mine, for example, and all of a sudden we're in their base, killing them while they're killing you. And who's going to suffer more? The person who can jump through the Sky Passage, save all of their villagers up on this top position, and then be in their opponent's base, killing all the villagers, or the person who's going to be able to erase all the buildings. I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out. We'll see how Jack's going to go here in this matchup, and what sort of ideas we're going to see. Most likely, I imagine we're going to be seeing some sort of Oceanus play here from Kavoth, and Jack here obviously going in with the Athena. Hermes, probably not the best of options, but you could try for a little bit of the Hermes action here or there, but definitely not on this map. It's going to be Athena most of the time. So we'll be, after all is said and done, Oceanus versus Athena. A really quick advance time here from Jack. Unfortunately for Jack, I don't think he got the memo on this map. He really should be going for many more fishing ships. We actually see Kavoth here. He's only gone for a handful himself. This is not the most clean of Uranus build orders at all. He's coming up over onto this side. Oh, a couple of those Arctic wolves causing some pain. If you're going to, I mean, both players are going relatively quickly, but if you're going to be going for a fast advance time, you have to be doing something very specific with it. And it's kind of looking like we might be seeing a Farsican town center, actually, from Jack. Never mind, he drops a military barracks. He's getting himself out the Heracles. So yeah, I mean, on the one hand, a Farsican town center it did look like he was going for. On the other hand, yes, just placing a building and then going for full spam makes some sense as well. As the Jason now looking into the base of Kavoth is holding Scale of Echidna at the moment. Going to get just a little bit of damage done as the villagers decide, hey, we can just turn around and shank you. We've got ourselves the Collider. You're not going to be doing anything over here. There's more fishing ships coming up. We've got the Servant to come around onto this side as well. Military barracks ×2. up onto this position as the Minotaur comes through. The Jason needs to retreat back out. Heracles is in. Galadriel going to be scouting around, trying to figure out what's coming for him. But with the military barracks already up, he will be able to start spamming out those Murmillo. He's got 2 of them, and he's going to be going for as many of those as he possibly can. However, we are still yet to see any Sky Passage shenanigans. So, Kavoth taking just a little bit of damage here early on. Not going to be the biggest of deals, but just a little bit of damage as the Murmillo over here going to trade HP for a little bit. I'm not sure where the Galadriel went, but a bolt there onto one Hero Murmillo as another... There's the Galadriel over here. The next Hero Murmillo going to get converted in, and the Minotaur will go down. No early game damage really suffered here from Kavoth, and Jack is now in for a little bit of a difficult time. As we see Poseidon coming through, big upgrade. Jack on the other side, he is going to be going for... I need to turn off my friend on flow colors while I remember. Jack on the other side here, going to be getting himself out some more fishing ships and all the good stuff. As the hoplites pulling back ever so slightly. Mana's coming up all over the place for Kavoth here. The military barracks up onto this position. And it's just going to be full send on the Murmillos here. There's probably the simple answer for the Zeus player in this situation is just try to get to the heroic age and then start making out those Hapaspist. I mean, at the moment, Kavoth not really 100% sure what Jack's doing. Jack's now starting to make some trireme. He's getting a hoplite. He's getting toxoid. He's definitely planning to stay in the classical age for a while here. As some hoplites swinging around the side. Going to be looking for the lightest of raids here onto Uranus' villages, but they are just... Not Uranus', Kavoth's villages here. He's just going to pull back for a second. The Murmillo now going to be looking for some revenge fire. He does have himself that speedy Murmillo tech, so Empyrean speed. As the Murmillo are going to be moving around the map very quickly here. As the hoplites sneaking in onto this position. Village is going to be darting for the mana. Not quite able to get there. A good little fight to start this one off as Kavoth going to be sealing these units in here. But unfortunately for Kavoth, he doesn't have his Galadriel out. So this is actually not a terrible trade. This is not a terrible trade for Jack here. But that being said, it's not really a good trade either. As the Murmillos are just going to dive through the mana, get back over here, clean up the rest of these guys, and that's a really big win early on here for Kavoth as Jack pumping units out into his main base. He's got a lot of gold in the bank, a lot of food, a lot of wood. In a very difficult spot now. And Kavoth catching his army out, gets a couple of kills off. More Murmillos to come in. Carnivora gets dropped down with the Jason at near death HP there. And the Galadriel, does manage to snipe one Galadriel. No heroes out, but the Minotaur is going to be going down nice and quickly. You do see some trireme over here, but a nice defense from Kavoth just calmly gets out a Siege Barim to defend. Over onto this side, the Servant is getting cleaned up as well. But Kavoth's lead is slowly starting to balloon in this game. As Hyperion now pre-queued for Kavoth, he's going to be able to get to that next age very quickly. He's out onto this side. Still hasn't dropped a single Sky Passage in this game. I'm a little bit surprised to see that. Now getting himself the Economic Guild and all the other good stuff. Like, for example, maybe when you push out into the middle of the map, that's where you can start dropping Sky Passages onto the sides of the map. And maybe even put one in the middle so that you can dive back into them. We are seeing a whole bunch of Hero Murmillos now getting converted. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Kavoth grabbing himself a very quick heroic renewal behind all of this as well, as Bareem to come out to try and deal with the Pentacontra over here. As Kavoth is following a fairly, I would say a fairly standard mid-guard sort of game plan. If your opponent builds a ship, we build the counter ship. And that's it. If he sees the ship, he builds a counter ship, and then he'll deal with that and come out in front on that trade. Does make a lot of sense. The pickaxe to come through. Sultan for a pre-queue. A couple of hero Mamillos now starting to get converted. And Jack, I mean, it looks like he's still trying to get to the next age, but he's short on gold. The Mamillos now going to get themselves that heroic renewal. They're going to get into a position where they are literally unkillable for this army here. Once you get if you get like a full population army of hero units, you just win every fight from then on in, and all of them heal themselves back up. It is a very expensive thing to do, however, as the shockwave comes through, the Mamillos start their cleanup over here, getting a huge amount of damage onto these units. But for whatever reason here, Kavoth says, I'm going to bail. Remember, he does have that heroic renewal. It's not quite in. He doesn't have heavy infantry either. He sort of decided to make that attack happen that little bit too quickly. And now he says, all right, now with all the upgrades, I'm ready to go. Look at this HP coming back up during the fight. It's a huge amount. The Caladria trying to dodge arrows does manage to do so. The army of Jack gets cleaned up, and Kavoth takes a very quick game 1 in this best of 5 series for the group stages of the Mythic Wars tournament. Obviously, a really, really nice defense from that early attack. Jack kind of fell just really far behind, and maybe, I don't know, he felt a little bit lost in the matchup. Considering he is an Uranus player, he's obviously trying to do something which he himself would struggle against, but Kavoth is one of those players that it's just really, really hard to get much done on the offensive there. And unless you play it incredibly cleanly, he's going to punish you a lot of the time. So well played there from Kavoth as he takes the first win. We'll move into game number 2 and see if Jack can reevaluate, reassess, and redo all strategic thinking moving into game 2 to give Kavoth a bit of a challenge. Alrighty, we are now into game number 2 as Jack spawns in the left-hand corner of the map and Kavoth spawns in the right-hand corner. The map is Alfheim. So Kavoth starting off with a very dominating game 1 performance. He's now going to be picking up that Noir moving into game number 2. Very, very powerful on this map, Noir is, because, well, Noir is a defensive god. She's got a really, really good late game because of reasons. Well, because of the auto build feature, because, I mean, if you go through Hull 2, you can get that advanced fortifications. You've got 3 tiers of towers as well as advanced fortifications. So it's kind of like you take the Norse safeguard and you give it some steroids because you've also said, hey, have guard towers and have 4th tier towers as well. So late game Noir, very, very powerful. Not only that, there's also all the units that she gets in the late game that are great, like the Mythic Age hero, those water dragons, maybe even going for the fire dragon, the Phoenix type unit as well. Both of those can be really, really powerful here. However, Jack does manage to get his hands onto one of the Atlanteans here in this series. He is an Atlantean specialist to some degree. So we'll see what he's going to be able to come up with here with the Gaia. Now, Gaia here probably has maybe like 2 or 3 different potent strategies that she can try to get the Noir off their game. So strategy number 1 is going to be some sort of a 2 talent center timing attack going through Rhea, or even going through Rhea and then going through Atlas and then trying to hit that. If we take a quick look at how the map looks, I mean, there's town centers on the top and the bottom. Neither town center is really defending a gold mine amazingly. However, this position here, if you get this town center and you get up to here and you can lock this off, and then you can potentially also lock this off with an earth wall as well, all of a sudden, this is one of the best town centers you've ever seen. And same too over here, an earth wall, some nice walls up here, some extra walls over here, and it's going to be really, really hard to break through. So Jack's got his work cut out for him to sort of punish Kavoth here. As we'll see what he's going to do. He's starting to move villagers away, leaving a handful on food to kick the game off. As we'll see what he's going to be advancing through. As more villagers starting to move. Generally, you leave like two or three on food when you're advancing through with Chinese, because you don't really need that much food early on, especially against Atlantean, who's not really building any cavalry unit. The main unit you want to build against the cavalry is a halberdier. It costs a lot of food, but Atlantean obviously doesn't have that, so the halberdier not the most useful. As a whole bunch of villagers now on wood and gold, and we'll see Kavoth going through how to. On the other hand, we are seeing Jack going through Oceanus. He has himself some upgrades here. Looking, unfortunately has an idle citizen. You hate to see it. It doesn't show up as idle for him. It's just sitting here with the Z's above her head, and he has to like notice that. He has to see that for him to do anything. I'm not sure exactly what else he's doing apart from staring at his main base, but nonetheless, he's obviously moving the oracles around, trying to see everything. But Kavoth is going to be ready to move up to this town center. You can see he goes for like a 4-minute advance time, so quite a lot slower than some of the like earlier advances from China. It looks like the Chinese like later advances are starting to become a little bit more of a thing. But did he have any upgrades as well? No economic upgrades. Just a late advance. Drops the town center. Drops the clay peasants down. Sends the Cheongchi up here. Going to start grabbing himself the deer on the front there as well. And the citizens now on their way out to drop a town center as well. It looks like he's got to be a little bit careful. The Cheongchi can get in here and get some serious damage. I imagine he's going to be searching, or well, he's trying to hide it for some reason. He's trying to probably search around for something a little bit later. Drops himself down the earth wall incredibly early so that it can set itself. It does take 20-ish seconds for that one to get up. So the town center is finished. And the clay peasants still have got themselves 70 seconds left to get some resources. A house to come down as well to connect everything up over here to the favor. In the main base, not a single military building just yet. We do, however, see Jack going for very, very quick bowsaw. I'm not exactly sure what he's going for if he goes for this. Like, obviously you want to take advantage of your... you obviously want to take advantage... Oh, I'm just getting distracted because I just got a message from something that I need to deal with right away. I am apologizing. All right. Onwards and upwards. We're back to full focus mode. All right, we've got the watchtowers coming through. Okay, my thought process here is obviously you want to take advantage of the Gaia economic upgrades, but you also want to be hitting timings. So is there any point in getting extra wood right now instead of just getting food and gold? Answer, probably not. As we do see a military barracks down, this is going to be for Mermillo. Generally, the Mermillo probably not going to be that useful until much later. Probably want to get some Terma heroes out to deal with the Cheongchi from running around and killing you off. And Terma are actually very useful for the entirety of the game versus China. This is something that I'm pretty sure other people don't agree with me on. Maybe they do. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely something that's worth building to kill off like fire archers or kill off what are they called? Chukonu. Can be a good way to go, as a couple of fire archers do pop out now. They're going to start trying to break out of here. Kavoth's got himself a lot of food in the bank. He is short on gold, so not going to be able to quite afford that. Now he does decide, all right, we're going to grab all of our economic upgrades. Going to go into a couple of Guaofu here as a little bit of a reaction to what Jack's going for. And Jack throws down a couple of buildings. Got to be careful not to overreact to this because, like, realistically here, there's no threat from what Kavoth is doing. Kavoth has just built a couple of units, and Jack is just going to need to build a couple of units back to send these guys away. Even just heroizing a couple of Terma here and calling it a day. Probably doesn't even need these extra ones at this moment. But nonetheless, we'll see what he's going to be going for next. There's still a huge amount of food in the bank for Kavoth at the moment. As the hero Terma coming through. We're going to try and snipe down the Cheongchi. Cheongchi getting a little bit of damage done, but hero Terma very, very powerful. And Kavoth, whoop, bit of a miss micro. It pulls in. Both players a bit of a miss micro. As those archers all going to get cleaned up. And Jack will be able to snipe down the final Cheongchi. Kavoth pulls back into his main base. And where to next? It's obviously going to be a heroic age. We see the heroic age queued up now as well from our main man, Jack. Jack now throwing some farms down here as well. This is one thing that you can see that Kavoth hasn't even thought about doing just yet. There's still a couple of cows here as well. Kavoth does have the advantage of having all of the herdables. He's also got the pig relic, Tusk of Dankang, to get even more stuff going. And it's going to be Golmang. And we'll see where to next as Jack's throwing his market and his armory down. I must say, I feel like Jack's just not using the resource. There's berries over here. He's eating this hunt on this top corner. Kavoth also isn't using these resources, but he's still grabbing all the food on the map. And now behind all of this, a huge amount of food, wood, gold coming in. As the earth wall going to get knocked down. A mana coming through as well. And yeah, I think Jack's just unfortunately overproduced on these units. And this is going to allow Kavoth a very, very hard counter to this. Or whether he goes into White Horse Cavalry or something else, he's got to have himself a hefty amount of ranged units here as well. As the ballet coming up into the middle of the map. Very, very risky to do this, but he does see the units over here sort of bashing away at the earth wall. Unfortunately for Jack, he is not going to notice this. Running straight in here, very risky. We'll see if he can find anything as the army of Kavoth turns around to try and take this fight. Carnivora dropped down as the units need to retreat back. We have the big fat Tao Wu to come in. Gets a little bit of damage done onto the Carnivora before he stops. Not able to get the Tempin bowling effect happening as now White Horse Cavalry queuing up onto the left-hand corner. Going to try and get around onto these bad boys. Deal with the Terma. As he can just run in and out from that earth wall. It's kind of insane how good that is. So now there's the heroic gauge for Jack. He does decide to go through Thea, which does mean he doesn't get access to those rear attacks, which are really, really good. Plus, on top of that, he's sort of missing... Well, not missing. The Dryads sort of aren't the best against Noir because Noir's got that Mythic Age hero, right? And that guy does splash damage and has big multipliers versus Mythian. So you run into the fight. He's not only does he stun them up, but then he also just starts whacking away at them. As you do see an attempt at some military barracks to come down and deny this town center. A bit of a shanky action happening, but I don't think that's going to be enough damage there. And Kavoth is going to immediately react, send a handful of units over there to try and deal with that one. The Hesperid's tree now up. Units starting to amalgamate in onto this position. Get a little bit of damage done. This is a good fight right now for Jack. He's got to be very, very quick to micro this one, though, as the Kontari is coming around onto the backside. And you can see lots and lots of resources unspent for Kavoth right now, as he's going to try and just hold on to all this aggression. There's no pushing power here, no destroyers, no nothing. He's going to try and take out those units. The forest protection is incredibly strong on this position. Jack's got to focus this down. He still hasn't grabbed himself the heavy cavalry just yet. He does have himself Poseidon's secret. As the Carnivora gets dropped down, the Quailfu are also getting healed up underneath this. There's more, as we do have the Terracotta Riders coming in. Jack's making a really, really nice push here. He's got to control those Terma. They are losing a huge amount of HP here, as all of the food from Kavoth is spent. He's got none left. He needs halberdiers. He needs white horse cavalry, but he just does not have the resources for it. Jack makes a great push, but he hasn't done the damage just yet. Another town center is up over here. Another ballet to come down. He's just going to be spamming these up all over the place, it looks like. And now we've got destroyers to come through. But is this too little too late, is the question. Because you can't push through all this. Now we've got towers as well coming up, as Kavoth is just full spam on the wood. He can't afford the units, right? Because he doesn't have the farms up just yet. In fact, his economy is an absolute mess here. But Jack doesn't have the pushing power. He also doesn't have that third town center just yet. And he's playing up against, well, he's playing up to 100 villages. He's got 90 himself, but generally speaking, they don't really want to stop at 90. You want to get to 100 and maybe even add in some trade as well on a map like this and with a god like this. Jack needs to get himself that third town center, or at least get himself fortified town centers here. Some barracks coming up over here. He's struggling for resources. Kavoth, on the other hand, another ballet to come through. Over onto this side. The naked destroyers, unfortunately, are just not going to be cutting it. He needs himself some upgrades on those bad boys. Kavoth does manage to now get himself up to full pop. I kind of want to see a couple of Catapultis mixed into this, because while the Kontaris are probably winning the White Horse Cavalry in a sort of cost base, on a sort of cost basis, the White Horse Cavalry are pretty expensive here at 45.85 compared to 58.36. You still want to be like getting a good counter, and if you can, so a couple of Catapultis here would not go astray. As the Kontaris need to split off to come over here and take out the Quailfu hero. Both trying to sneak forward, but that does not get allowed. And that's going to be a dead town center, a dead Quailfu hero, but he does manage to push through the middle here for the time being. As the settlement goes down, and Kavoth is going to be able to push right through the center of the map. Huge amount of gold here for Jack as well. He is struggling for the resources. He's missing those Mythic Age upgrades as well. As the Dryads popping out in an attempt to help out here. All of those medium Wuzu Javelin in. Not the most useful of units, but Jack is just not able to get his economy going in this game in the slightest. And in that moment, Jack taps out. And that there is the game. So a nice hold from Kavoth. He had a little bit of trouble here. And I think potentially if Jack had just read maybe what was going on a little bit better and went into like half Contarius, half Catapultes, all of a sudden this army looks a little bit less scary. Obviously, Kavoth would probably then go into more Fire Archers, but Catapulti Contarius against Fire Archer, White Horse Cavalry, that's probably a nice composition to fight against. But he didn't read it, and Kavoth gets the win here. I just want to take a look at the old statistics and just have a look here. You can just see, look at this. Eco just goes sort of into the ceiling, but even with all of that, you take a look at the actual food situation, and it is an advantage here for our Gaia player, which is sort of wild. And the fact of the matter is he needs all that food. But, I mean, luckily for China, their low food income means you could just build yourself White Horse Cavalry, 45 food, not very much. It's the gold that's expensive, and you're off to the races. So well played there by Kavoth, winning 2 games, or going up 2 games. We'll see if Jack can bring it back in game number 3. Kavoth is obviously proving to be a very, very difficult matchup at the moment, but we'll see if Jack's got it in him for game 3. Alrighty, game number 3. It is currently 2 wins for Kavoth, not 2 wins for Jack. So let's flip that around. Jack now going into his Poseidon here for game number 3, and Kavoth on his Ra. One of the gods I think a lot of players are feeling like is one of the strongest at the moment. Well, the top players are currently thinking that, you know, Ra, Isis, Set, these gods are obviously very, very high priority picks in this tournament. And we're going to be seeing Kavoth go onto it. He does pick Ghost Lake for this one. We'll talk a little bit about like maybe why, because this is going to be interesting. You're kind of rolling a dice a little bit here if you're going to pick Ra on Ghost Lake. So either you're rolling the dice on 2 gold mines in your main base or 1 golden mine in your main base. Obviously, if you get 2 gold mines in your main base, you're very happy as the Ra player. And the second thing you're rolling the dice on is how many secondary gold mines are out there. Because if it's a 4 gold mine Ghost Lake, all of a sudden you're strapped for gold. You have to go into a trade route really early, and that can be an advantage for say a different god. So there are a couple of things that you're like not 100% sure on whether you're going to have an advantage there, but this map here for Kavoth gets double gold mine, gets himself 6 large gold mines on the map, so that's good for him, or 3 for him, or whatever. And so he's going to be really happy. Which does leave over here, Jack needs to start thinking about, okay, which angle are we going to go for here with Poseidon? So angle number 1 is we're just going to go for a really, really big all-in, and just continue to try and keep Kavoth or keep the Ra on 1 town center, making good trades, going for the center Hippias and just 1 town center all in, maybe a big bronze timing on maybe even into the main base or something crazy like that. Could be a option, probably not the best option for this map, but option number 1. Option number 2, go into a boom war against the Ra and just try and hold on for dear life. If for whatever reason, the insane amount of economic advantage that the Ra player has isn't enough to convert a win, then you can find the wins in the late game here for Poseidon. So taking this game down the late game route and just trying to like make things really, really difficult to push, really, really difficult to like get any damage done, lots of walls, lots of building spam, and just trying to hold on. That's another option here for the Poseidon. So we'll see which way Jack wants to go for it. At the moment, he does go for a relatively quick advance time. Villagers over here currently sharing the storehouse, living the dream. There's a second monument now coming up for Kavoth. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kavoth actually go for Bast here. Bast is obviously really, really good against Greek, just on the fact that they've got only 2 heroes. So if we've got out, say, 6 Sphinx, all of a sudden 2 heroes versus 6 Sphinx, that's advantage for the Ra player in the micro aspect. Obviously, if you don't micro, the heroes are going to be able to clean them up. But as soon as you start saying, oh, I'm just not going to be where your heroes are, you're going to be okay. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to go for that. He does go for a really, really late advance here. Also hasn't moved his Pharaoh over onto the second monument just yet. You want to, effectively, if you if you aren't losing out on anything, you kind of want to move over onto the other monument. But it looks like Kavoth wants this bottom wood line anyways. So it makes some sense. As a stable comes up for Jack over here. Bast now on the way for Kavoth. So no surprises there. As the Centaur going to be riding in here looking for some early game damage. It's pretty hard to actually find this damage here against Ra. I wouldn't be surprised to see Poseidon players getting a little bit more greedy with their build orders. I know that there's a couple of like pretty decent advance times of like maybe like a 430 advance time with hand axe pickaxe for Poseidon into an immediate town center and things like that. But we are going to be seeing the stable up for Jack, and he is looking like he wants to just apply pressure as much as he possibly can. A couple of priests are out, causing some problems. For the Centaur, you got to be so careful here. The priest did recently get a fairly hefty boost in the Classical Age. They are really good at defending here as the Atalant's taking a lot of damage, and the unfortunate part about trading HP against Egyptian is that they can just heal themselves back up. As the Sphinx pops out, Katoskopos now dead. A couple of Hippias on the way as the villagers moving forward now for Jack to potentially drop a town center. It does get spotted by the obelisk, and that's going to mean, well, Kavoth is will be well aware of what's happening. And he can now decide to potentially just send these Sphinx right in onto this position and just hit Eclipse. We see an armory coming down. A lot of villagers on gold right now as maybe a bit of a reaction to what's happening. Maybe going for his own town center as well behind all of this. There's the Cryo Sphinx to come in. But with Atalanta here, even with only 109 HP, it's probably not going to be enough for Kavoth to take this out. Maybe, just maybe, if he wants to click Eclipse and risk it all, you might be able to do so. He charges in, splits up the Sphinx. This one's going to go down. But a villager or two might fall over here as well. So Cryo Sphinx hits just as that goes in, and ceasefire to save the villagers after all is said and done. Now means that Eclipse is going to be on the table for a one town center all in. If Kavoth wants to, he pulls the villagers off. It looks like he's going for a town center at the top side of the map. I'm not really sure why the top town center. Obviously, there is a Hippias over here, but there's nothing really on this town center. You do have a gold mine here, but you have to put a lot of walls up to defend it. He's probably going to be able to do that, but nonetheless, it's a bit of a... Both of these town centers are a little bit barren. I'm a little surprised that... I'm not, because there's double gold mine in your base, but I'm a little bit surprised we are seeing that. There's some walls to come up over here for Jack, just to defend against those Sphinx raids. There's a couple spearmen now starting to come out for Kavoth. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what he's going to be able to do with them, but just getting a little bit of map control, maybe preventing these gold mines from getting grabbed, maybe coming up and just walling this in, maybe getting some stuff around onto this other town center here. We do see an obelisk coming through as well for the priests. There's Kavoth now making a move forward onto this front hunt over here. As the Hippias will be spotting this, it looks like. I mean, it's one Hippias versus a bunch of Shanky Shanks, but... Oh, no, he doesn't. He's going up to check the town center. We got a glimpse of the villagers, but unfortunately did not notice as he's now roaming up to the top side. And the boom war begins. The boom war with a handful of spearmen in the middle, slowly starting to move out onto the map. So villagers getting a stable over here. And Sphinx roaming up to try and take out the Hippias on this spot as doesn't want to lose his vision for the time being. We'll be able to pick that one off and then just insta puts the obelisk back up. Obelisks are so cheap. 10 gold. Obviously, you have to risk the priest, who is very expensive, but just getting those obelisks up non-stop is something that these top players do so absurdly well. There's a little bit of a raid into the main base. Managed to snipe a villager there. Lots and lots of villagers on the favor at the moment. It's the 2 centaur sitting on the back. We see Eclipse gets dropped down. The villagers immediately running for the tower. As the centaur have to respect this 5.8 speed. That's a lot of that's not really enough speed to dodge the Hyrule Sphinx. With the help of an Atalanta, it will be enough. And Jack manages to quell the storm that is this night. As the Sphinx have to pull back, doesn't really take too much damage. That's a big win for Jack. However, behind this, we're seeing a heroic age. And with the heroic age will then come some very, very difficult to defend, aggressive things momentarily. We see Sobek coming in for Kavoth. There's the Sphinx to come back up to the top side, and I think that Kavoth is kind of scared Jack into his main base. He could probably be a little bit more active with the Centaur at the moment, trying to poke some stuff. At this point, I mean, he's got the same speed as those Sphinx, so he shouldn't be too worried about getting out onto the map. You'd have to be very careful, but shouldn't be too worried about it. We see a little cheeky monument coming up for Kavoth over here as well. As he pokes forward. The vision, though, from Kavoth is very, very nice here. She's pretty much the entirety of his map. As a couple of obelisks to get sniped down. Dionysus coming through. Armory now coming in for Kavoth as well over onto this side, as he's probably going to just drop a Migdol Stronghold. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him just go straight to the Mythic Age, though he is grabbing himself Medium Spearman. He's pretty much gotten everything that he wants, and he sees all the Centaur. Easy way to deal with the Centaur is Son of Osiris, right? Now a couple of the Camel Riders actually coming in as a bit of a attempt to defend. Doesn't want to take any serious heat here from any of the units. So pulling back. And a third... Wait, no, that's the second town center. No third town center just yet. For either player, actually. As the Hardcore Sphinx just checking out the town center on the top, making sure that doesn't get grabbed. Centaur into the main base, but there's really nowhere for... I mean, this position here you can go and attack. The Pegasus now going to be spotting a lot of this over onto this side. Sees the villagers. He should know that there's caribou here. Because he's got his own caribou in the back. So he's got to be taking a little look-see over there. If he gets onto that, it should be a good amount of damage. As the Heroic Age now in for Jack. He's got himself Pickaxe, Hand Axe. If we take a look over at what Kavoth's got, he's got himself Shaft Mine. And he doesn't have Hand Axe at all, actually. So it's kind of equal on economic upgrades to some degree. Though Shaft Mine is giving more bonus. As the Centaur here have been spotted, going to be pulling out as the Camel Riders coming into the main base here. And Jack is in a little bit of a difficult position at the moment. Lots of idle villagers in a lot of trouble. His Centaur caught out. We're seeing a whole bunch of Prodromus now starting to get trained to try and deal with those Camel Riders. As Hippolyta out to try and deal with the Sphinx. Get a couple of shots off. And he will send those packing, but still a hefty amount of damage done with the Camel Riders here. And then all the farms to come down, and I imagine we're going to be seeing a pretty big rain here after all this. Still has a couple of goats to finish up. And sometimes with Ra, but ideally you want to finish up all the goats, but sometimes with Ra it's just better to just drop the farms, rain, and then go back onto the goats. And then after the goats are gone, go back onto the farms, obviously. As Spirited Charge, Thracian Horses, all the Prodromus coming through. You can kind of just see that the economic difference here, absolutely wild. I don't think the Kavoth has really done any significant damage to Jack here. It's just has more stuff. So Town Center going down. The Prodromus are in hot pursuit. Thracian Horse is not in just yet. Spirited Charge not in just yet. But he does come through getting a big amount of damage. Kavoth not paying attention to this. He is grabbing a Town Center at the top. Now decides to bail. As the Town Center finishes up here, Migdol Stronghold finishing as well, and another gold mine secured. It's going to be 1, 2, then 3, 4 gold mines secured. 2. This is really, really big, unless Jack can make something happen very, very shortly. The one problem for Kavoth at the moment is he's got 4 Migdols up, sure, but he doesn't have the barracks down to get himself out a huge amount of spearmen to deal with these Prodromus. There's a fortress coming down for Jack. A couple military academies to come in as well. Wouldn't be surprised if you can make some hoplites or even Hypaspist as well to make things work. Jack is missing himself the heavy upgrades as well. Now it's time to take the fight. As the raining arrows here from the Jack army come in. He does dodge those a little bit, but the Locust Swarm's still going to be hitting everything else. As Jack pulls back ever so slightly, the differential in military is stark here. As even though no heroes from Kavoth, the Centaur just not able to really carry through on this fight, as more units are waiting over here to join in. Jack floating a lot of resources for the time being. He's only got 3 stables, 3 barracks, and 1 archery range. Not really enough to be pumping units at this point, but like I said, he needs to be taking the game slowly if it's at all possible, and delaying. But unfortunately, Kavoth has managed to just sprawl out all across the map. He's got all the town centers, everything he needs here to put the nail in the coffin in this series. But right now, the one advantage that Jack might be able to get is a really, really nice heroic age. Oh, sorry, mythic age, following up with a huge amount of armory upgrades and pushing out. However, if you take a look at the resources that Kavoth's got, he can literally just buy his way to the mythic age, basically. He's also got a rain that he hasn't used to boost the food into the stratosphere. And there it goes, and I imagine at the conclusion of this reign, there will be a mythic age. So it's 4 town centers, right? It's full population army. How are the upgrades looking, actually? Let's have a quick look. He's got full copper with bronze shields. He's got all of the upgrades minus heavy spearmen, but he's not really making that many. And he's got himself 5 Migdols now up, and he's going to be going to the mythic age very, very shortly. Meanwhile, Jack has got full population. He's now got himself his heavy Prodromus, but he is very, very far behind here. Actually, how are the economic upgrades looking as well? He's got irrigation. He's missing bowsaw. He's got himself quarry. Only has a handful of villages on wood though, so it's not that big of a deal. As the Hypaspist are all out, but Hypaspist versus Hypaspist, actually, I did hear that these aren't the worst against camel riders somewhere along the lines. I've heard that Hypaspists aren't the worst against camel riders. But nonetheless, Kavoth's going to be able to break into the main base right now. The wooden gate is going to go down incredibly quickly to this amount of heavy camel riders. And then all of a sudden, the villagers are going to feel very, very dead. As another rain to add insult to injury here from There's 4 Migdals on this spot. Are you kidding me? 4. Our 5th one. They cost 425 gold because he's got sun-dried mud brick. As the camel riders swarming into the main base. Taking everything out here. No, this is not the new patch. This is pre-fortifications update. Ask yourself this question. Have you ever seen an Age of Empires 2 game with 5 castles, sitting 6 castles on one screen? Oh my god. Oh, the camel riders are deciding to run on the spot for a little bit, but they will get out of here. And I think Jack just spotted it. And he says, I don't want to deal with that many Migdals. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And Kavoth claims a incredibly decisive 3-0 victory. Taking a look at the timeline. Taking a look at the resources. Actually, let's go civilian units. Pretty close, you know? Jack keeping it competitive all the way up till about 14 minutes and 35 seconds. From that moment onwards, obviously Kavoth shot very, very far in front. Let's have a look at the resource total. It was about 14 minutes where things went awry. There's still a slight economic edge here, and then it just gets further and further out of control, and Jack just cannot stay competitive here in this game. Very, very tough to hold on. He's got to, like I was saying, I think the only real way you can make this work is by delaying somehow, some way against this brutality that is Ra as Poseidon, if you're going to go down this path of town center and all that other good stuff. But a well-played game by Kavoth. If you guys enjoyed this one, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next game.